So welcome to the demo of Query Studio. I've already launched the app. It literally launches in a second or so. And you sort of start off in this query tab, which is where you'd execute your SOQL. But before you can do that, you really want to set up some connections. I've got two here that are active, and you could just you log in through the typical sort of Salesforce connected app sort of method. You can see here the URLs that I've got, the API version that it's using. You can launch the org if you want to go and open it. You can edit, you can duplicate the connection if you want multiple of the same for whatever reason. And obviously you can delete them if you want. You can set one as default, which is what this tick is, so that when you go into query or import or search, it just selects the default. And you can also group them. So if you're managing multiple orgs, maybe you've got dev orgs, maybe you're managing orgs for different companies or different groups, you can group them so that you can easily see. I've only got the one group here, which is the Innovera group. You can drop that down, you can shrink them. So if you've got 20, 30 connections, you can organize them as you see fit. So if we take a look at Query Studio, the actual query part of Query Studio, the tab itself, as you can see, it's selected my connection by default. That's one I said I want to use most of the time at the moment. Got a little toolbar here, text box here where you'd actually type in your query. Toolbar contains, what you'd expect really. You can explain your query, get Salesforce to explain your query. So you can see how optimal it is, what indexes you might want to look at putting in place. You can use the tooling API instead of the standard query, and cut and paste, normal sort of stuff there. Formatting the query if you want to sort of prettify it, I suppose, or unformat it if you want to remove that. And then save as, and open, and then sort of download and row height. You'll see the row height and the rest of it when I show you a query. This one here, raw JSON, basically shows you what exact JSON that Salesforce returned from that query. So if we open up an existing query, I've got three here. Again, it's very much into grouping things to sort of keep us organized. So the queries are stored under the connection that you wrote them for. That's so that you can sort of facilitate, having multiple queries, and that query relates to that org, because obviously the data model could be different between orgs. It could be even different between sandboxes and your production org. You may be running queries, against some development work. And then you can promote your queries up to the production org when you're ready. I'll open this one here. See, it's got some sub queries, but it's basically a pretty standard set of fields on the standard account object. So if we execute that query, so you get the results as you'd expect. A nice tabular form. You can adjust the row height if you want it compact or just standard, or you want, make the gap large, whatever you feel comfortable with. You download JSON, sort of raw JSON, CSV or Excel. And we can navigate that JSON. So we can take a look at it here, and you'll see the records themselves and all the information that Salesforce returned. You can search across that JSON. So you don't necessarily have to use the result pane. You can just look at the raw if that's what you're comfortable with. You can move to the next record and just navigate through that result set. But if we take a look at the results table, you can filter, sort of basic, you expect to have. You can click on the name itself if you want to sort in that order. You can double click on the width if you want to just automatically resize given the information that's in the column. And a few things it does for you is like format things. If it knows this is currency, It tells you what currency it is, and it gives you the symbol as well, which is the sort of added if you're more of a sort of business user, or maybe reporting or analytics, and you want to see more formatted data. That's basically what that's for. The other thing this does is where it's got the subqueries, you can see here it's put them in columns: contacts, opportunities, and cases, which relate to the objects that those subqueries were against. And then you can expand them. So you can see here that you can actually view the data in a tabular form as well. So most query tools that I've used don't tend to do that, which I found sort of a bit painful, really. Let's close that up. Shrink these down. Obviously, you can scroll left and right, and you can open up the record itself if you want to view it in more of a form layout. Equally, you can expand your subqueries out. You can copy that information if you want, and if you want to put it in a report or wherever you want to do with it, email it to somebody. Let's take a look at the format wizard. So if I hit format, you can see here it sort of nicely formats it. Depends whether you like, that sort of more vertical view of your SOQL, or whether you want the standard text. Save as, give it a new name. You can select which connection you want to save that query against. So I was saying about, if you've got a development org sandbox that you're using, you've got a query that's that's working against that sandbox, and that query or that work gets promoted to production, and you want to move that query up to be production available, you can do that. And then I can download it as an Excel spreadsheet if that's what I want to do. So that's the SOQL query capability. I'll do another video with the next tab.